So in my practice, I see a lot of thyroid issues, way more than I used to. I'm telling you, I feel there's an epidemic of thyroid disease. I see lots of people with thyroid. It used to be more women. Now I'm seeing women and men with thyroid disease. That's unusual. And the thyroid issue in women has to do with estrogen, and I'm not going to go into it, but it has to do with women having estrogen, which actually estrogen works opposite from thyroid. But the kind of issues I see, that we all see, goiters, just enlarged thyroids, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, inflammation of the thyroid, and the deadly thyroid cancer. So this is too much. My daughter, who's a 9th grader, said, "Mom, this slide sucks." Okay. And so she said, "If you're going to do a talk, get with PowerPoint, Mom. Hip yourself." And so it's just too many words, so I will kind of sum up what this says, and I don't expect you to read it all, or maybe you want to read it all. But this is the most common thing, and everybody I think knows what hypothyroidism, the sluggish thyroid. I think I was born with a sluggish thyroid, but I think a lot of people complain of feeling sluggish, and we think it's our thyroid. It may not be, but it could be. So what is it? If there is the thyroid is underbalanced for whatever reason, main hormone might not be produced. It could be a liver issue, and disruption in any one of these processes, which I can show you, starts from the brain all the way down to the liver, could be disrupted. So hypothyroidism, something's not working in your thyroid hormone system. So as you know, for those of you who've come to our talks before, and what Mirto and I in the past have talked about, and Morgan wasn't here for those talks, is we like to give you clinical information. We like to talk a little bit about the science, and kind of dispel any theories that were a bunch of voodoo doctors out there. I kind of do that all day long, sitting in a practice in a purple house in Fairfax. So I'm not a voodoo doctor. I have lots of degrees to my name to show you I'm not a voodoo doctor. Doctor of Voodoo Medicine, graduated from Tulane, I guess, right? That would put me down there. No, I'm not a voodoo doctor. We have lots of degrees. So I just want to say that first. Clinically, I put this patient together. She doesn't exist. But I can name about 20 young women I have just like her with some aspect of this clinical picture. And often they have frequent infections. It's almost always sore throats. Fatigue, always blamed on teen hormones or teen drama. Hard to lose weight, right? That's always a female issue, can't lose weight. Sometimes enlarged thyroid, not always. And we do their lab work. We check all those thyroid tests. I'm super diligent. I do all the lab tests, not just the ones that we normally do. And all the lab work is normal. But it sounds clinically like thyroid. So why is her thyroid gland underfunctioning? Clinically, it sounds hypothyroid. I run a $2,000 lab workup, and it's all normal. So what's going on with this kid? Is she just another crazy hormonal teenager? Well, if she lives in my house, she is. But the other kids have issues. So the first thing we have to focus on, and I'm not going to give a big whole nutritional talk, because that could take about 2 days just talking about the nutrition and the thyroid, is it a nutritional issue? And the thyroid gland needs these things to function normally. And the key thing it needs is selenium. And selenium is a mineral in soil. So years ago, people asked me every day, does my kid need vitamins? I hear that question every single day. And I used to say, well, if they eat organic and all this, no. But I'm not so sure that's true anymore. The soil is depleted of selenium. And I'm just wondering about this, whether we don't have selenium. Really hard to check a selenium level. And you can take too much selenium. So if you go out and start buying organic selenium made in some ashram in Oregon for $35 a bottle, you might get selenosis, too much selenium. Selenium, your thyroid needs manganese, another mineral. Your thyroid needs iodine. Iodine, 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 not the potassium iodide you took when the Japanese nuclear reactor blew up, because your body can't handle that potassium iodide. You need it in a liquid form. Inosol's been around for about 70 years. So these are little subtleties of practice you might not know. Vitamin D is the wonder hormone. It's not a vitamin anymore. It's a hormone. It's been reclassified. Just like Pluto was reclassified, we reclassified vitamin D. You need iron. You need zinc and quercetin, which is a bioflavonoid in the same family as vitamin C. Eat a lot of apples and onions, you'll get quercetin. So this is what you need nutritionally, at least, in balance. There are other reasons why your thyroid doesn't function. I'm going to go through them briefly. Aging. Sorry, guys. Overweight. Leptin is the new overweight buzzword, and I'm not going to go into what leptin does because that's a whole other story. But when you blog up leptin with triglycerides, it does not get into your brain, and then you underproduce thyroid hormone, and being overweight is related to having low thyroid function. Germs are the big new buzzword, and periodontal disease. And that's a whole new aspect of thyroid health regarding people who have a mouth of old root canals and stuff in there. Yep, everyone's like, oh yeah, I had some of those. And maybe they might be harbinger low-grade infections would affect your thyroid. Malabsorption and celiac disease, that's my big one lately. Boy, if I see one more kid with a thyroid issue who can't tolerate gluten, I mean, that's off the charts. And chemicals, and I'm going to spend a little bit on chemicals, perchlorates and PCBs, because perchlorate is a thyroid toxin. The military used perchlorate to make all sorts of military stuff. I don't play with soldiers. I don't talk about all this stuff. I don't like that stuff. But they used it and they dumped it. It has to be recycled every 7 years. So the military, where do they dump it? Well, in your water. Where? Colorado River. Loaded with perchlorate. So who gets their water from the Colorado? We do. We get our water from the Colorado, high perchlorate levels. It doesn't matter if you eat organic food. The water is still being used. So there are high perchlorate levels in there. It's a thyroid toxin, period. 36 states have high perchlorate levels, 36 states. I don't know where you can go that doesn't have a high perchlorate level. PCBs and stress. We all live with stress, but if you have anxiety and lack of sleep, right, who doesn't? Real thyroid problem if you suffer from those aspects of stress. That has to be fixed, like today. Make an appointment with Myrto or Morgan or myself. Come on in. Okay, you really can't see this periodic table, and actually this slide is way off. It's creative. That little box my daughter put on there for me to show you where iodine was. But I wanted to show you, this is true chemistry. Iodine is right there. You all see that iodine? It's a halogen, which means it probably has 7 electrons on the outer shell and need 1 to fill in. And I wanted to show you, but what you can't see in that slide is that bromine and chlorine are sitting above the iodine. Now, why is that important? Well, you know what's in our water. We have what's in our water. We have chlorine and bromine, right, to purify our water. Well, probably chlorine and bromine are thyroid toxins. It competes with iodine. They're all halogens. So that may be part of the problem as well, our chlorinated water, pardon me. And I just like, you know, homeopathy uses a lot of the periodic table. Most of my remedies that I use on people come from minerals, a significant number, particularly in children. So I'm very familiar with chemistry and mineral usage, and I use a lot of homeopathic iodine, it's called iodum, in my practice. So these minerals are required to treat people. We use a lot of minerals. So I just want to read this to you. If you can, sorry, my daughter, sorry, Angie, wherever you are. If you just read this with me, this kind of sums it up on the thyroid. That new science is showing that free radical problems stress the thyroid hormone function, especially when there are deficiencies of selenium and manganese, that's what we talked about, containing antioxidant enzymes. If these nutritional deficiencies are not corrected, a person is much more likely to struggle with body weight, insulin function, and poor metabolism.